All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you again for joining us for another episode of Ink and Chat. Tonight, we are joined by Miss Tammie Lilly, and we are going to get into a little bit more about her. She is a tax professional, author, and owner of KRC Bookstore. She's a mother of three, two princes and one prince. And everything that she does involves the community and the betterment of it. So, Miss Lilly, come on, tell us a little bit more about this one of your amazing books. I see that you have written a few. So, which one do you want to tell us about tonight?
Well, tonight I wanted to highlight the one that I wrote myself.
Mhm.
And that's this beautiful baby right here is Why Your Refund is So Low.
Okay.
And it is for business owners talking about a lot of things that pertains to preparing to prepare taxes.
Okay. And that's something that we all need to know about. We need to understand our taxes, and we need to understand some of the convoluted stuff that we just don't completely understand. Period. When it comes to business and personal finances, and when it comes to the tax, so dive in a little bit more and tell us some things that we can learn from your book.
Okay. A lot of things that I talk about is foundational things of having a business.
Hmm.
A lot of times when a new business owner opens up a business, they look at the glorified portion of it. They look at, oh, I can set my own hours. I'm working for myself and all these glory things of it. And
Hmm.
those are beautiful things, but you have to be um, um, aware that there are some things that are not so romantic about owning a business.
Hmm.
And so that's what my book talks about. It talks about keeping financial records. It talks about that follow up. And a lot of us drop the ball when it comes to the follow up because it's a lot of different legs to it. It's a lot to be done. But the reality is, if you want to make the revenue, you got to put the work in. And putting the work in is reaching out to people, not just once, following up with them. If they say, well, hey, I can come back and do such and such next week. Just if they, getting the taxes prepared, or
Hmm.
when I get all my W-2s, I'm gonna use my industry as example. A lot of times in the beginning of tax season, tax filing season, a lot of people are getting excited about the ones that's getting excited about getting that refund.
Hmm.
And they may say, well, I haven't got my W-2 yet. In this particular year, we have a lot more forms that's involved with doing a basic return.
Hmm.
I haven't got all these forms yet. So I may have them next week. And you have to go through and follow up with those people because there's a lot of businesses out there, a lot of tax professionals that's in their frontal. So you have to make sure you stay in their frontal. So when they get that W-2 in the mail and they ready to file that W-2, that tax return, you have to be in that inbox if you're on social media. You have to be in that text message if you're on phone.
Yeah.
You have to be in them emails. Hey, I just want to follow up with you and see if you received your W-2s. If you have
Right.
any questions, if anything I can help you with. And it takes it takes dedication. It takes consistency. Um,
Yes.
and I'm really big on my notebooks. Really, really big on my notebooks. And I actually just had a business owner that created some journals for me, that created this particular book for me. And this is my business journal. This is my follow up. So it
Okay.
talks about customers' information, initial discussion, notes, and follow up. So you can remember those things because you're not going to remember all those things in your frontal. What exactly you talked about with that business owner, but that business, I mean, with that customer, but that customer is going to remember that they told you something very specific, and you want to be to say, hey, I remember we talked about this and that and other. So that makes them, that gives them that special, attention, that they actually took the time out to remember it.
Right, right. And so now, tell us a little bit more about, so from an author's perspective, when as authors who start their own business, their own business for their publishing business,
Yes, ma'am.
what tips can you provide them that they should be thinking about, things that they should be including in their write-offs and things like that when they're doing business?
Remember everything you have to do in order to get that finished product. It doesn't matter how small or how big it is. You always want to write those things off because those little tiny things can turn into big things. So on the tax perspective of it, that will be my suggestion for an author who is publishing a book.
Okay. And so and and should they be to give them a little bit more about record keeping and how they should making sure that they're keeping up with their records in this process because it's so many pieces from hiring an illustrator, hiring an editor,
Yes.
this because it's so many different types of editors. Then you
Yes.
have your marketing piece, you
Mhm.
have ads and things like that that you're paying for, shipping. It's so much stuff that you're paying for. So how should they organize those files and just kind of making sure that they keep track? And when they're doing these author events, it's so many things that they may want to consider, think about that they're not really thinking about that they can actually utilize because they're a business.
Well, my first suggestion is write those things out that you will have to, do in order to, make your book successful. Regardless if you've actually made that initial investment in that editor, you want to take in consideration, write that out. That I know I'm gonna have an editor, and maybe kind of put out some estimate costs of what I think
Mhm.
I will be paying for. Give yourself a budget because it's nothing worse than going out there and deciding that I want to be an author and you have all these expenses and then you forget about all these expenses and then you look up and you're over budget. So
Yeah,
you always want to write those things out and know what exactly the kind of the midway, the medium of what you're going to pay
yeah.
for.
Yes. And as you talk about budget, a budget is so very important when
Yes.
you're doing, especially from a self-published, perspective, because it can get expensive,
Yes.
depending on which way that you want to go, whether you want to have, depending on if you're doing illustrations for like a children's book, those illustrations can add up really, really fast because if you're doing individuals, you're doing a spread, whatever the case may be, that adds up really quickly. So you want to have an idea of what your budget is going to look like so you know that you can afford it,
Yes.
because it can be expensive.
Yes, ma'am, it can be.
Yeah.
And I tell anybody, I have people that ask me the question whether they want to go self-published or they want to go with a publisher. And to me, it just depends on how hands-on you want to be. When you
Right.
with a publisher, you can have your creative muscle and flex it and so forth, but you're a little limited with what you can do. You know,
Right.
and as well as you have to know how much time you have to put into this project because you have to find a balance in any kind of business. You
Mhm.
have money and you have time. The
Yes.
less money you have, the more time you got to put into it. If you got a little bit of money, you can have some wiggle room, then you can kind of cut some of the time out and put the money into it. So you have to find a balance in, and depending on what it looks like for you. That's always a
Yeah.
personal decision of what direction you want to go into. But
And that's
always
good
you want to
advice.
make sure you know what you're paying for
Yeah.
and
That's
put it
good.
in the spreadsheet.
Yes. And
Spreadsheet is the
so
simplest thing. Or get a notebook. If you keep taking notes by hand, take notes by hand. If you have the capabilities and the skill set to be to put it into a spreadsheet, put it into a spreadsheet.
yeah.
People ask about different accounting systems, and I don't have any. I don't refer any particular type of one, but there are a few out there. But you
Mhm.
have to know that a lot of those different accounting systems that you use to keep your books are not as user friendly as you think they may be because you have a balance system whenever
Yeah.
you're doing any type of accounting work. You generally, okay, I know what this particular budget is. If I got editing here, then it's my editing budget. So and then I plug my editing expense off in here, and you have to take away from that editing budget in order to make sure it's balanced out. It's a check and balance system.
Yeah. And tell the people how important it is to when you're running a business, and you're trying to keep track of your expenses and your income, how important it is to have separate accounts.
Yes, indeed. Because not only is it, ultimately illegal to, mix, personal account with business account, but it also, as far as knowing what your business is doing, because you can't measure how good or bad your business is doing without having that separation, you
Yeah.
know. And it just gives you, like I said, it just makes sure that everything is in order, because it's just like having a department store, or having different departments. If this particular department is not doing as good as the other department, you may have to either go and revamp, or you may have to
Mhm.
alleviate that department altogether. And so you don't know that. You can't analyze the data if the data is not there. If it's all jumbled up together, then you can't analyze the data
That is so
and know
very
what's different.
true. That is so very true. And it's important that we keep our books, literally keep our books straight when it comes to that business journey and how you're expending. You got to keep up with what's going out and what's coming in.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
And so I'm going to switch gears just a little bit here, because I know that you also wanted to tell me more about your bookstore and how you can be able to help some of these amazing African American authors, BIPOC authors that's out here, and just sharing what they're doing in their work.
Okay. Well, I created the platform KRC Bookstore. Like I said, I started out as a tax professional, and I wanted to take my industry to the next level. How do I stand out? What makes me different than every other tax professional?
Right.
So I went to an event, and the young lady was talking about write a book, write a book, write a book. So I decided to write a book. And I could not be writing books and being an author without paying homage to my faith. So I end up being a part of a couple other projects. It was called Prayers of the Boss Babe. So I did volume 1 and volume 2. Volume 3 is soon to be coming out.
Okay.
And then I did a women empowerment book. And because I had, these 4 books under my belt, I figured, that's good enough to be a bookstore. And so after I, decided, okay, I have all these books and I have a bookstore. So why not help others who are going through the same walk that I'm going through,
Yes.
for marketing and so forth? Because a lot of authors get excited about the process, and the process is awesome and it's amazing. There's a lot to learn. But once you have that tangible item, what
Yes.
are you going to do with it? It don't
Right.
pay for itself. Once you put all this investment in and you have this finished product, what am I going to do with it? How am I going to sell
Right.
it? What
Yes.
platform am I going to use? So I wanted to create a platform for other Black owned businesses, because a lot of times it's not a whole lot of options out there. You have the different platforms that you can share, and you can share your book on, but the authors don't have the option of longevity. And the
Right.
reason why I say longevity is, when I sell a book, who have I sold that book to?
Yes.
When I sell that book, do I have some kind of record of me selling that book? Do I have some kind of picture of that book that I sold to that young lady or that young man or that child? So
Yes.
I created the platform. So it's an overall service. Not only do I create the revenue, help create revenue for the author, but I also take pictures of the person who buys the book,
Cool.
as well as I document the contact information. So that way the author has somebody to go back to, because it does no good to sell 100 books, 200 books, if I don't have no contact with them and I can't go back and talk to them. If I have some merchandise, I decide
Right.
I want to do some shirts. Those are the ideal customers to go back to, is the customers that you've already sold something to. So that's the
Absolutely.
platform that I create for the Black business owners, and because I want to make sure our community has positive books that they can relate to, that resonate with them. And then I have my children book section. I do a children book subscription box, as well as I sell different children's books. I don't write the actual children's books, but I have authors that's in the bookstore that create these beautiful artwork of our children, with the beautiful hair and the beautiful African American features, with the big lips, and
Yeah.
the big noses, and that kinky beautiful hair. So I want our children to have something positive to see, that looks like them, and that is okay for them to look that way, and they're beautiful. They greatly and wonderfully made. And so
Absolutely.
um,
Absolutely.
it's just, I have so many layers about why I did what I did, and it's always that I'm always finding another why,
Yes.
as time goes on, and I just absolutely love what I do with the bookstore.
And that's amazing, and We have to love what we do. If we don't love what we do, then we're not going to give it our best. We're not going to give it our all. And that's important and amazing that you put that together, because a lot of people, as you said, as authors, as a self-published author myself, in the beginning, I tell you, it was a struggle, just trying to keep up with how many books I sold, what events that I wanted to go to, making sure that I had that budget, just keeping connected with the people that I sold them to. That's a lot. And when you're doing it by yourself, oh my God. It is mind-boggling just trying to put that together. So it's awesome that you have a service that can help people, kind of walk them through that process, and also take that piece, that burden off of their hands, so that they are not having to keep up with that stuff themselves. So tell them how they can find you so that they can be able to access your services.
Okay. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Just simply search by KRC Bookstore. KRC Bookstore, as well as the website. Because I also put the books on the website. I have amazing web designer, and she takes very good care of the bookstore website. So it's the same thing, krcbookstore.com.
Okay, okay. Wow. So now, is any other last words or any words of encouragement that you would like to leave with, to inspire those authors that are currently out there trying to push their work, but they're getting overwhelmed and feeling like giving up? And also those authors that are in the process, and they're going to be out here in the same place as some of us at times, where we want to give up, but we got to keep pushing through.
Okay. My advice is just go into these things with your eyes wide open. Don't go in with a mentality that, once you get the book done, you're done. Oh my God, I'm launched, I'm done. You're nowhere close to done. It's a lot more to be done after then, because now you have a tangible item. So, how do you sell it? That's just like any other store, any other place that you go to. They create something, and then they have to put it out there in the marketplace for others to see it. It's not hard to sell. The struggle and the goal is to find your target audience.
Right.
Your target audience. Stop telling people that I can service everybody, because when you're doing marketing and putting a marketing campaign together, you can't talk to everybody at one time. Now, you can have more than one target audience, but you got to have a focused target audience. Are you looking for women of a certain age? Are you looking for children? Are you looking for single parents? Are you looking for males? Who are you talking to in
Yeah.
your campaigns? When you do those Facebook posts, who are you talking to? Because you can't talk to everybody, because
Yeah.
they go right on past your stuff if it doesn't resonate with them.
Yes. Yes, so true. It has to resonate with them, and that's something that I've had to learn the hard way, and I'm still learning. This process is an ongoing classroom, and that's what I'm gonna call it, ongoing classroom. You're always constantly learning as you're going through this process, and just being able to stay connected with people like yourself, and getting in some of these groups and just learning some of the
Yes,
tidbits. It's always a plus just to be able to continue to learn and understand and know that you're not alone in the process, and that
collaborations are good.
yeah, and it's resources out here for you. You got to
Yes,
search
it
for 'em.
is.
It's resources, search for them. So,
Yes,
well, I greatly appreciate you joining us this evening. And guys, make sure that you head on over. If you need these services, head on over to rcbookstore.com.
KRC.
I mean, KRC. I'm sorry. Look, I even got it wrong on here.
No problem.
KRCbookstore.com. And and check out Miss Lilly, and just get some of those services. Take some of that pressure off of you, and making sure that you have an ally in this process as you're going through it. Again, guys, I thank you so much for joining me for another episode of Ink and Chat. Until next time, thank you so much for joining us. Have a good evening.
Everybody be blessed.